Joining me now, three of the best political analysts in the country, all CNN contributors. Republican strategist Ed Rollins, Ed, White House political director under President Reagan, chairman of the Mike Huckabee campaign. Errol Louis, columnist, New York Daily News. Democratic strategist Robert Zimmerman, Democratic National Committeeman, and, well, you've got a lot of things to talk about, you and Errol both, but I'm going to shortchange it tonight. Errol, let me turn to you real quickly.
Yes.
We had an amazing occurrence today on the campaign trail. Senator McCain was basically told by his supporters in a rally, liven yourself up, get engaged. We want to see fire in the belly. Get out there and go after Senator Obama. And he effectively said, you know, I think we've just got to all respect each other and ignored them, and by my estimation at least. What's your reaction to what's going on with this
I think
campaign?
It was an admirable display of political discipline. He knows that rallying the base is not his primary task right now. You know, the reason, when you see the candidates, where they're spending their time is the best indication of what their remaining strategy is, no matter what they say to the contrary. If you see him in Pennsylvania, he's trying to get swing voters. You see him in Ohio, he's trying to get swing voters. He's trying to get people who haven't made up their minds yet. He's throwing red meat to the people who think that the Democrats are a socialist party and some kind of conspiracy.
This was not an admirable. This was a dishonorable, a totally dishonorable display of political.
Contravening Errol Louis?
Of political showmanship, absolutely. For 3 days now.
Political showmanship? Wait a minute. What do you say?
For 3 days now, Errol, we've seen John McCain and Sarah Palin stir up the crowds to the point where they yell ugly, vile things about John McCain. They never, about Barack Obama. McCain and Palin have never once held them accountable. Now, after several days of media coverage exposing what they've done, they're now sort of changing their tune. Doesn't change the ugliness of their message.
Those cameras just arrived, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. On cue.
They're doing the right thing. They're pulling back. I think they realize they've stirred up some really ugly stuff.
Well, not only that, is if he doesn't get talking about the economy, and instead of talking about the heirs and all these things would have been relevant things 2 months ago. Right today, as I made a statement earlier, I said, this is like a 60-foot wave going over your sailboat. One of your people saying, what's for lunch? You know, I mean, nobody cares. What they care about is the economy, and whoever basically can project some meaningful program here, both whether you're going to cut taxes or raise taxes or whatever it is that you need to be doing, or none of the above, which is probably what you need to be doing, I think the country will basically look to and give another chance. This race is getting away from McCain, and I think the reality is that Obama, I think, has frozen. I mean, he's just moving forward. There's 11-point gap now on the Gallup new Newsweek poll.
Oh, no, that was reduced. It fell to 10.
Fell to a 10. Well, Newsweek has one tonight. In all the major states that he has to win, he's trailing now, with the exception of Indiana. So
is it over? I mean, let's be honest here.
I personally think it's over, and I think the question for McCain is, how do you want to go out? How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be talking about issues that matter, and do you want to help your party, which is the more significant thing, where you now have 10 or 12 senators in trouble?
How can you help this party? How can you help?
You can talk about something that's relative to the public, which is the economy, as opposed to sidebar issues that can't help anybody else.
Is it not entirely possible, Errol, that we're talking about not helping the party at all, because the party is going to have such inconsequential influence, if any at all, in the new Congress that it doesn't really matter at this point what the Republicans think. They could very easily swamp the election for Senate, for the House, and for President.
Well, that's right. But if you're a Republican Party man, if you're looking at maybe at the long term, and the long term could be as short a frame as 4 years from now, you've got to try and hang on. You've got to try and rescue as many seats as possible. You've got to try to live to fight another day. And the reality is everybody's representing districts that are actually being hurt. I mean, there's real work that has to get done here. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, you want to stay in the game and try and help your district.
The only way, and it goes back to Ed's point, which I think is right on target, the only way the Republican Party can live to fight another day is to stand for and speak out to the issues confronting the American people. And they have run a campaign, very frankly, that has, especially in the past several weeks with these personal attacks, really ignored them. And I think it's important to see the country is hungry for solutions. I think Secretary Paulson's statement today is an important first step, and I give you a lot of credit for being one of the first people to call upon the Secretary to do this and predict it would happen. Yeah. And I think it's an important first step to putting us back on track.
But we still have an issue in which both of these presidential candidates have demonstrated a complete lack of understanding of what to do, which means that their advisors have very little understanding of what to do. And that creates, I think, a great concern for us going forward.
Well, it should. I mean, I think I think you're exactly right. And these major issues, both by Barack and by McCain, have been thrown out. The mortgage adjustment thing that McCain threw out in the debate, and what he threw out today, some of the things Barack's thrown out, they're not thought through. And I think that if I was running McCain's
they're devices.
They're the devices, and it's not part of an economic plan. This debate on Wednesday is the last time the public's going to look at either one of these guys. And I think that both sides need to argue a point of view, and it's very important that they be differential.
All right, we're going to be right back with our panel. We'll have much more with them. Coming up next, stay with us. I'm going to find out if this means that Robert Zimmerman agrees wholeheartedly with Rush Limbaugh. We'll be right back. We're back with Ed Rollins, Errol Louis, and Robert Zimmerman. So, I mean, basically, Rush Limbaugh, his position was early on that John McCain is inept and unattached to the Republican base. Would you agree with that?
I think the Republican base is inept and unattached to the mainstream of the American people.
Whoa.
So have no concern. I don't agree with Rush Limbaugh, and if I did, I would change my position immediately.
Errol, what do you think?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, look, that reflects some of this anger that you've been seeing on the campaign trail, where, and this is the base, they're coming out there. This is somebody who probably a lot of them didn't really want. You know, you'd never know that the guy had won a string of primaries, but, you know, the base is saying, who are you? Why aren't you saying what we want you to say? When are you going to get into it? You know, and people like Rush Limbaugh have stirred up the base. And so, you know, it's a mismatch. It's one more problem that he has to surmount. And with, you know, 23, 24 days left, he's got very, very little time to turn it around.
But we could spend the show discussing what the liberal Democrat base want to do. Fortunately for Obama, they have been very quiet, but they're looking forward to the old Robin Hood policy and of taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor. And there may not be any money left because the federal government is taking it all. I mean, we're creating a nationalized government now.
Well, this is one of those cases where it's going to be very, very important that whoever that president may be selects a team that is capable of dealing with this. Listening to Bob Rubin today, it's clear Bob Rubin is one of Obama's top advisors on the economy. I don't believe that he is. He's also one of the guys who helped drive Citigroup into the mess it's in. I think it's time for, I hope that these, whichever one of these men were to be elected, they'll find fresh and bright new leadership instead of attachments to the old, which has gotten us into this mess. It's time for genuinely new thinking. Let's turn to the politics that the nation faces, though, and that is this tremendous credit crisis, a failure of government. We are looking at calamitous but possibilities here. I personally, and I've said it on this show, and I've invited everybody to join me in economic policy. There will be no depression, but we've got to begin, it seems, to think real terms about the future of this country. It's not happening. This presidential campaign should have been about bringing together a national consensus. They have not engaged. They've not engaged on a host of critically important issues. We're going to come out of November 4th, whoever is elected president, without a mandate on a host of issues.
But you know, the words you just said before, there will be no depression. And you're one of the very few people I've heard on the national stage say that. Those words speak to hope and speak to confidence. And we're not hearing that. And that's how recovery begins, when our national leaders do speak with hope and confidence. And we certainly didn't get it today from the White House when Bush...
Please, don't bring up the White House.
Okay, I wouldn't bring up the White House. But the point is, though, from our national leaders on every level, we're not getting that sense of hope and confidence. And that's what begins the recovery. And while I think the Treasury made important first steps, long way to go.
You know, this is what you get, Lou, when you have two campaigns that refuse to deal with the press, that very carefully stage-managed every appearance, bypass any kind of real conversation.
I would add to that, it's what happens when the press goes into the tank for one candidate, and neither the national media nor local media has the strength of character to demand a response from candidates.
The thing that frightens me, and I think frightens a lot of other Americans who don't know a lot about the economy, I don't think anybody in the government understands the economy. I think it's a game play. It's like the McCain campaign. Every day they wake up and something's not working, so they try something different, and that's very frightening to us.
And one of those things that hasn't been working, if I may say in conclusion, is those free trade policies. Thanks very much, Ed. Thank you, Earl. Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. Tonight's poll results, 83% of you don't believe the market would have gone down a lot more without that $700 billion bailout and $150 billion in pork. And I believe you're right. Thanks for being with us tonight. The Election Center with Campbell Brown begins right now. Campbell?